Black Tuesday was the fourth and last day of the stock market crash of 1929. It took place on October 29, 1929. Investors traded a record 16.4 million shares. They lost $14 billion on the New York Stock Exchange, which is worth $199 billion in today's money system. During the 4 days of the crash, the Dow Jones Industrial Average dropped 25%, and investors lost $30 billion. That was 10 times more than the 1929 federal budget. It was more than the United States spent on World War I.
Many ways that a Great Depression made this country what it became.
This kind of fear or concern that, gee, everything's going well, but everything could fall apart.
It has been difficult for subsequent generations to really imagine just how awful and how deep and how long it was.
You know, the Great Depression was so interesting because America had been on such a high for so long, and just, you know, the jazz age and everything was great and everybody was having a lot of fun, and all of a sudden it came crashing down. And I think that folks just sort of thought, is this the end of the American dream?
Now, one might have said, looking around the United States in the 1930s, at the worst moment, there were 13 million people unemployed.
You had people in soup kitchens, you had people unemployed, people were losing their homes across the country. The whole nation came to a standstill, and everybody looking at America thought, was it all a mockery? Was it all just an experiment that obviously didn't work? And what will America be now? Will they just be a marginal nation? Will they ever recover from this?
The collapse of the infrastructure of a country that had really, up until that point, had been based on a sense of surplus, you know, a sense of there being plenty for everyone, must have instilled in people a real calling to redefine who we were going to be in our history, who we were going to be in the progress of this country.
America was made up, again, of immigrants, of people who'd come from other forms of deprivation. They came here to have a better life, and they had worked hard to get to where they were, and then it began to be cut away from them in a way. And they didn't turn and run because they'd known hard times earlier.
I can assure you that it is safer for you to keep your money in a reopened bank than to keep it under the mattress.
And we had a president, Franklin Roosevelt, who came in and served 4 terms during the Great Depression and also led us through World War II, who took demonstrative action to try to turn the country around.
That's what we know as the New Deal, which at the end of the day was nothing more nor less than creating a set of institutions that were commensurate with the scale and complexity of the economy as it had evolved up to that time. What the Great Depression revealed, and certainly what I think Franklin Roosevelt thought it revealed, were these deep structural deficits in American society and the economy that had been allowed to go unattended to for about 100 years, since the Industrial Revolution first shows up or arrives and impacts America in the very early 19th century.
Families across America learned the real meaning of deprivation and sacrifice and community effort.
The American people showed great resiliency and great determination, and they drew an optimism out of the most pessimistic circumstances you could possibly have. And whether it was that pioneer spirit that resided in many of the people, that hope for the future, that it's bad now, but if I keep working and keep plugging away, it's going to get better.
I absolutely think that the spirit that got us through the Depression came from that same pioneer spirit. It was the idea that, look, something's going to knock you down, but you can't stay down. You got to get back up and plow on. You can't sit around feeling sorry for yourself. You certainly can't look back and reminisce about the good old times. You just got to keep on going forward and reinvent things.
The stock market crash of 1929, coupled with prohibition of alcohol and his reluctance to provide relief for the economy, made Herbert Hoover the most hated president of the era. When prohibition was repealed, it is said that Franklin Delano Roosevelt celebrated with a dry martini. His New Deal provided much-needed regulation and relief to the American economy and its people.